Hi everyone, SQRT here. Today we're gonna read 4 stories from our entitled Parents. Let's get started. Okay, let's take the proverbial cat out of the bag and slam it against a wall. I married my sister. But before any Alabama jokes start flying around, let me add some context. My dad passed away in a car crash when I was 2 years old, and my mother did not remarry until I was 7. The guy she married was an absolute awesome man and one I called Dad for the first time. He was amazingly caring towards me and my mom and would always be there for us. My mom was happy for the first time in years and I finally had a role model I could follow. But he came as a package deal. He had a daughter that was exactly 1 year younger than me, and I mean exactly. Our birthdays were on the very same day, she just happened to be 1 year younger. As a young kid, I remember meeting her for the first time when they introduced us. My mom was dating him for a few months and wanted to wait how I would react not only to a new dad but to a new sibling as well. I remember laying my eyes on her and thinking, why is a fairy here? She was so beautiful that I was speechless for a few minutes, not knowing how to react. Until my mom nudged me and said, well, aren't you going to say anything? I blubbered something that made my new sister giggle uncontrollably, and that was that. We had no problems whatsoever getting along and everything was awesome. I had a new dad, a new sister, and my birthdays just became bigger and better with a ton of new friends and lots more attention. Before it was just me and my mom and a couple of my friends. I didn't really had many friends at the time, and unlike the stereotype, my stepsister was an absolute joy to be around. She would play with me with whatever toys I wanted and I would do the same. I didn't mind playing with dolls with her. However, as time went on and we grew up together, our feelings also started to develop in a way that I was becoming worried. Well, let's just say that the inevitable happened, and by the time we were 16-15, we had no choice but to come out to our parents. Much to our disbelief, they actually supported us, although if I think I could see some raised eyebrows from our dad from time to time. The rest of the family, not so much. My mom's side was kinda neutral on the thing. They didn't really oppose us, but they never actually approved either. But my dad's side? Holy shit, they were out for blood. Calling me a monster, saying I was taking advantage of my sister, and telling me I was going to hell for defiling a young girl. We hadn't done anything yet. My dad's mom was one of those religious nutjobs that just laps up everything the church says and tithes 20% of her income to the church, saying it's to pay my heavenly apartment. Yeah right, it's more likely paying for the relevant's new Porsche Cayenne. We were planning to get married after we graduated, and our grandmother pipes up saying the church would never marry us and that we would always be condemned to a life of sin. Yeah, she's like that. Well, fast forward to present day. We are happily married, by the church. We have twin daughters that are about to turn 10, I own my own business, she's a chef in a 5-star hotel, and everything is going smoothly. Nah, that would be too easy. Our life is good, but our relationship with our dad's side of the family took a really dark turn. We did invite them for our wedding, but they chose to not come and would harass us for years. Until we moved to a different city. Our dad kept our new address a secret from his side of the family for quite a while, and despite his and our attempts to actually get along with them, this fell flat on its face. They never wanted to be a part of our lives nor the lives of their great-grandchildren. Until 2 weeks ago. On our daughter's birthday, our dad called us saying that his mother would like to make amends, that she's dying and wants to meet her great-grandchildren before she passes. After some deliberation, we decided to move our girl's birthday to our old house with our parents and get the family together. For a while, everything seemed to go quite well. We got some odd looks from some of the family members, aunts, uncles, cousins, etc., and some whispers here and there, but otherwise it was going well. Happy birthday was sung, the cake was cut, and presents were opened. I was in the kitchen helping clean up when I hear a faint conversation coming from the living room. I thought everyone went home, so I creeped up to see who it was when I hear dear grandmother talking to the twins. I got closer when suddenly heard the phrase, "You are children of the devil." I turned the corner when I saw both my girls with a scared expression on their faces and this monster of a woman insulting my children, telling them I forced myself on their mother and saying we were all going to hell, especially them since they were born from sin. I immediately went ballistic on this woman, telling her to keep her lies to herself and to not utter another word. My wife was upstairs and ran down hearing the commotion. I explained what had just happened and her face turned from confusion to pure anger. She went off on her grandmother, telling her that this was the last time she was seeing the girls and hoped she had a good time because this was her last. We left without a word, and only the day after did I explain to our parents what had happened. Obviously, Mom was royally pissed, but somehow Dad already knew this was gonna happen but decided not to say anything, which kinda annoyed me. But then again, I guess he wanted his mother to meet her great-grandchildren even though she was more concerned in doing whatever the hell she wanted. Now we have two very confused 10-year-old girls asking all sorts of questions, but then again I suppose this day was near. We just thought we could wait until they were older before we could tell them. They actually understood the situation and are now asking us how we got along as kids. They are really curious. Unfortunately, the grandmother is still around and shows no signs of kicking the bucket anytime soon. Mom expects me to let her and her kid hang out in my house when I'm about to leave. This all happened during the Texas power outages. My whole street had lost power and I was getting ready to head to my uncle's house because he had electricity. Not even kidding, 2 minutes before I was about to leave, I get a knock at the door. I go to answer it and I see my neighbor who lives in the house behind me, we'll call her Big Bertha, with her kid. I say hey and ask what's going on. Big Bertha tells me they had family occupying their house and they needed a place to stay because it was too full. I said to them, "Sorry, I'm leaving myself, I won't be able to let you guys stay." Keep in mind, I barely even know these people. She responds with the most entitled statement ever, "So you're going to be the reason we freeze, selfish." I was honestly in shock. I didn't know what to do. I was just expecting for her to accept it and be on her way. I said I'm sorry, and went to close the door. As it was closing, I heard her say ouch. I turn around to see she put her foot between the door so it wouldn't close. She then opened it back up and stepped into my house, yanking her kid in with her. Looking at me she says, "We're not leaving." What? What do you mean you're not leaving? I didn't know what to think. This fool was acting like she was the dictator of our weekly dictator or something. At that point I knew she was too stubborn to be convinced. I'd have to trick her. What I did was I said, "Here, come with me, I'll get you the spare key to my house so you can access it while I'm gone, it's out front." I grabbed my bags and had them follow me outside. As soon as the door closed, I locked it, ran to my car, and sped out of my driveway. I nearly ran over Big Bertha because she thought she could stop me by standing in the middle of the road, but I swerved onto someone's lawn. When I got to my uncle's I realized I forgot my phone, but it turned out alright because I didn't really need it anyways. But my gosh, that lady was insane and I haven't seen her since that incident. Entitled Aunt thinks she allowed to live in her daughter's house after ruining her childhood. The more Reddit posts I read, the more memories of entitled parents return. This one was literally today, so I know it in a bit more detail than my other stories. So a little background, my aunt is awfully entitled. Her and my uncle adopted my cousin who I gave the fake name of Tiffany. My aunt has a biological daughter with the fake name of Stella. She didn't want Tiffany but her husband insisted on adopting her. The reason she didn't want Tiffany was because of her skin color, which I find absolutely horrible on her end. She was cheating on her husband, my dad's brother, ever since he adopted Tiffany. Story: by this time both my cousins Stella and Tiffany are married, moved out and don't include their mom in their life. But one day when I was over at Tiffany's house, there's a loud knock at the door. I go and answer since Tiffany is making coffee. It's entitled Aunt, Tiffany's mom. She shoves me out of the way and announces that she'll be staying with Tiffany and her husband and her boyfriend is coming too. Tiffany's husband, I'll call him Mark, ran down and demanded she and her boyfriend leave. She refused and said that HRDUGHT leaves HR so immediately it led to leaving HRTOA. Tiffany told her mom to sit down on the couch, which me and Mark were both surprised about. She asked her mom why she was here and where was her dad. Entitled Aunt went on and on saying how Stella told their dad about the affair and how dad kicked her out of the house. She said Stella was such a disappointment to her, but now Tiffany is her favorite daughter because she is letting her stay in her house. Tiffany, Mom, you aren't staying here, you verbally abused me the entire time I was in your house. What? I did no such thing. Even Op will agree with me. Tell her, Op. Me, yeah, no. I went over to your house so many times as a kid. You made her clean the dinner table when she didn't even eat there. She ate in her room alone. You made her clean whilst Stella did whatever she wanted. I'd advise you and your boy to leave. Both house owners already told you to leave, so do it. Screamed as she walked out, that she hopes Tiffany and her husband go broke and live on the streets, then slammed the door and she and her boyfriend left in his car. We all went over to my uncle's and told him that she wasn't worthy of him. He said once the divorce is final he'll go out and start dating again. Which is nice. Karen demands my dog be put down because he looks scary. This happened in the late 90s when I was 9 years old. To give a bit of context so this makes sense, when I was younger my mother rescued and rehomed animals as well as breeding for profit. We weren't like a puppy mill. Most were purebred cats, dogs and horses which had homes lined up before conception. One of the dogs we rescued, when I was about 7 or 8, was a pregnant Great Dane Cross Bull Mastiff who delivered about 5 puppies not long after we rescued her. What we didn't expect was parvo, a highly contagious virus that affects dogs and has a very high mortality rate. I can't remember if the mother had parvo or if the puppies caught it after they were born, but out of all the puppies, only one survived. A boy that we named Tiger. Anyone familiar with the temperament of a Great Dane will understand what sort of dog Tiger was. To call him a gentle giant is an understatement. He had the height of a Great Dane, standing at 28 inches tall, with the shoulders, girth and weight of a bull mastiff, well over 100 pounds, with dark brown stripes all over him. To be totally honest, he looked terrifying but would sooner lick you to death than he would growl or even bark at you, not that I ever heard him bark or growl at anyone. I was 9 when we moved to the town that this took place in. A small town with a church on every corner and a population of 2,000 narrow-minded people. We were a family of 4, me, my younger sister, older brother and our mother, with our entourage of animals, 8 dogs, 2 cats, 3 horses and a few chickens, which soon grew into a small zoo, and a family of atheists moving to a very churchy town. Needless to say, we didn't fit in and stood out like a sore thumb. Now we have that out of the way, on with the story. A few days after moving there, I decided to take Tiger for a walk and have a look around the town. Tiger could be walked without a lead, but as this was a new environment for the both of us, it was safer to put him on a lead. We lived just out of town along a highway, think Pet Cemetery and a cat, so it was about a 10-minute walk to town, and after a 5-minute walk up a hill there's a turn off to a long stretch of road that leads into town. I was halfway down the road when I heard someone shout, "Hey! You! What do you think you are doing with that dog?" There were only 4 or 5 houses along that road with no traffic, so there was nobody else this person could have been yelling at. I looked around and saw a woman out the front of her house walking towards me. Let's call her Karen. This isn't word for word but a summary of how our interaction went. "Karen, you deaf?" I said. "What do you think you are doing with that dog?" "Me, walking him?" "Karen, he's dangerous. You better keep that mutt away from me and my family if you know what's good for you." I said okay and continued walking. She muttered something as I walked away, but I have no clue what it was. I didn't see her on my walk back home, but we crossed paths about a week later, only this time, she was in her car and Tiger wasn't on a lead. I took the same path as the week before, only this time I was closer to town than our first encounter. I heard a car coming up behind me, so I went to the side and told Tiger to follow. We were walking on the side of the road as Karen came up beside us, rolled down her window and said, "Put that dirty mutt on a lead right now or I'm calling the police." "Me, he's fine to be off leash and he's not dangerous. I promise, he's very well behaved. In my state and the area this happened, and it's legal to have a dog off leash if the dog is well behaved and under control by the owner." "Karen, he's not fine. He's scaring my kids." She was the only person in the car and I'd never seen her kids. Me, trying to calm her down and reassure her that he's a good dog. "I'm sorry ma'am, but he's a good dog. Look. Tiger, sit. Good boy. Stay." I did this in front of Karen and walked away while Tiger sat in the same spot until I called for him to follow. But do you think this helped to settle the wild Karen? Of course not. "Karen, you better get that dog put down before he kills someone. He's scaring my children." "Me, your kids aren't even in your car, lady. I'm sorry but I have to go." I continued walking to town in the hope that Karen would leave me alone, but the lunatic followed along beside us for most of the way to town until I somehow managed to lose her by turning into a small side street. I didn't have a mobile phone, so I stopped at a shop to use their phone to call my mum to come get me. The only way home was the road that her house was on, and I certainly didn't want another encounter with her again. I wish I could say that this was the only bad encounter I had with her and other entitled people in that town, but it's not. I have many more I'll post if you're interested in reading them. One involves a horse and a tractor. Thanks for reading. So, that's about it for today. If you liked this video, remember to subscribe, leave a like and visit my Instagram, link in the description. I am your host SQRT, and I'll see you later.